Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Beth Day,
And I'm Jessica Fitzmaurice.
and we are the co-founders of Decriminalize Nature Northwest Arkansas. Along with our husbands, my husband Joseph Hood and Jessica's husband Jake Fitzmaurice, and we also have one of our Fayetteville co-leaders here, Erin Hicks, and her husband Josh. We're really happy to be here today, and thank you so much to Miranda Corwin and the Arkansas Libertarian Party for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to speak to you today. Before we dive into policy and solutions, we want to share why this issue is so close to our hearts. Jessica, I'll let you start.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. I want to share a little bit about how I got here today. I was born and raised in a small town in Huntington, Indiana. Since I was a teenager, I've struggled with deep depression. I tried everything. Countless medications, therapy, you name it, nothing really helped. When I lost my dad in 2008, it got so much worse. He was my rock, and suddenly I felt completely alone and hopeless. I'm a registered nurse, and I poured myself into my work. I loved helping people. I have 5 kids, and I wanted to be the best mom I could be. But inside I was still struggling. By 2017, I was desperate. I was thinking about suicide. I knew I needed to find something that worked. So I started researching, and I came across studies about psilocybin mushrooms and how they were helping people with treatment-resistant depression. Reputable universities like Johns Hopkins and NYU were doing this research. So I tried microdosing, and I grew my own mushrooms to ensure a safe supply. It wasn't about getting high or numbing out. It was about feeling normal, about wanting to live again. For the first time in years, I felt some relief. I felt like I could breathe more easily. I found myself noticing nature, like the cold air of an Indiana winter, and thinking to myself, this is a beautiful world after all. I remember the feeling that the world could be anything I wanted it to be because I didn't feel the hatred and disgust for myself I had felt for so long. I felt self-love. But then, just after Thanksgiving in 2021, I had just laid down to sleep after a night shift in the NICU when 7 Huntington City police officers in hazmat suits broke down my door, held me at gunpoint, and arrested me. Despite having no prior criminal record, I was charged with 3 felonies and I was facing 10 years in prison. I lost custody of my children. I lost my nursing license. And my depression came back full force. I was suicidal again. I had given up and resigned myself to spending the next decade of my life in prison when an attorney from Ohio, Taryn Hale, caught wind of my case, and he reached out to help me. He rebuilt my case and helped me to get a greatly reduced sentence. And together we educated the entire courtroom in Huntington, Indiana. My husband Jake and I moved to Northwest Arkansas in 2023 while I was still on probation. And here we found a fresh start, friendship, community, and open minds. And that's when we met Beth and Joseph. And together we founded Decriminalize Nature Northwest Arkansas in the hopes that we could prevent other good people from going to jail for trying to heal.
When I first met Jessica, I knew immediately that with the wrong strokes of luck, I could have been her. A good mother, a productive member of society, behind bars because she was desperate to heal. I was just lucky, I guess. My own story begins with an abusive marriage, a major faith crisis that left me spiritually floundering, and then a bitter divorce, followed by years of litigation in the family court system. I was traumatized. I had frequent panic attacks. I felt abandoned and betrayed by God. And the stress of doing it all on my own was ruining my health. Psilocybin mushrooms found me at the right time. They helped immensely and immediately. My panic attacks decreased. My health improved. I left unhealthy relationships, and I married a wonderful man who's out in the audience right now cheering me on. He's super handsome too. Together we are raising a blended family of 8 kids, and we are thriving. The mushrooms Jessica and I both referred to are part of a class of plants and fungi called entheogens. The word is derived from the Greek word entheos, meaning the divine within, and genesthai, which means to bring into being. Entheogens induce a state of consciousness much like that which can be experienced in meditation, near-death experiences, and mystical experiences. Part of the miracle of these medicines is that they helped me see and change the roots of my own beliefs that kept me stuck in cycles of abuse and control. And living up to their name, entheogen, they helped me heal my broken relationship with the divine. I am a stronger woman, a better mother, and now, instead of just surviving, I am an active and engaged citizen of my community.
The entheogens we are advocating for include the following: psilocybin mushrooms, often referred to as magic mushrooms. These fungi have been used for millennia and are even reflected in ancient Christian art as having spiritual significance. And ayahuasca. Over 75 indigenous groups in the Amazonian basin consider ayahuasca to be a sacred plant teacher. It has even been used in Brazilian prison populations to reduce recidivism. Iboga. This plant is native to Africa and has been used indigenously for thousands of years. It's incredibly effective in healing addiction to hard drugs like opioids, meth, and heroin, often in a single dose. And lastly, cacti containing mescaline, such as the peyote cactus used by Native American church in their religious ceremonies. In the 1940s and 50s, Westerners became aware of these healing plants, and a flood of research began to study their potential. But in 1970, research came to a screeching halt with the passage of the Controlled Substances Act. All of them were placed on Schedule I, a list of substances that the government categorically declared, without study or public comment, to have no medical use and a high potential for abuse. Possessing, growing, or sharing any of these plants or fungi was made a felony.
But in 2000, the FDA approved the resumption of research on psychedelics. We now have over 20 years of data, powerful clinical trials, and studies that demonstrate the profound abilities of these plants to help with depression, anxiety, addiction to nicotine, drugs, and alcohol, eating disorders, end-of-life anxiety in the terminally ill, and PTSD, which has important applications for our veterans.
But these plant teachers aren't just for the ill. They can be for anyone who wants to know what's just below the surface of their own mind. In 2006, a study conducted by Johns Hopkins, researchers investigated the effects of psilocybin on healthy normals. They found that almost 1/3 of the subjects reported the experience as the single most meaningful event in their lives, and over 2/3 reported it among their top 5. And about 2/3 of the study participants noticed increased well-being or life satisfaction over a year after the study.
We're also lucky to have local research right here in Arkansas that's shining a light on the impact of decriminalization. Dr. Ashutosh Bahave of the University of Arkansas has been studying the effects of decriminalization of psilocybin in the U.S. His findings show that decriminalization has shifted public interest away from riskier synthetic substances and towards natural psilocybin mushrooms, which are far safer in a couple of important ways. They're self-limiting, meaning that it's virtually impossible to eat enough mushrooms to fatally overdose. And they are not habit-forming. In fact, they are anti-addictive. This is really important news for public health.
So we ask, with all this research, why hasn't the federal government rescheduled these substances or decriminalized them altogether? Our country is mired in a mental health crisis. Millions of people like us have read the research and felt such hope that they have taken matters into their own hands at a great personal risk. It's a cruel roulette wheel. Is the federal government's inaction just a lack of political will, or perhaps a lack of courage? Finally, in 2019, a few citizens in Oakland, California decided they were tired of waiting. And they asked, what if a city council could simply deprioritize the arrest and prosecution of individuals who grow, gather, or share these plants and fungi? It was a radical idea, but a courageous one, and it worked. And now chapters of Decriminalize Nature are mushrooming across the U.S., and 27 city councils across the U.S. have successfully passed resolutions. Jake and I learned about them when we went to a conference in Denver. We were inspired, and we knew we wanted to bring the idea to our new home.
Decriminalization at the city council level is different from legalization, which usually happens at the state level and involves expensive ballot measures and complex regulatory frameworks. If we've learned anything from marijuana legalization, legalization usually ends up enriching a few, while for the average person, access is still restrictive and expensive. Decriminalization simply removes the threat of arrest or prosecution without adding new expensive layers of regulation and enforcement. The resolution we are proposing is the result of the work of hundreds of activists, experts, and city councils. It has been vetted by city attorneys and county prosecutors across the U.S. It begins, a resolution declaring that the investigation and arrest of individuals involved with the personal use, growth, and possession of entheogenic plants, including those scheduled at state and federal levels, be the lowest priority for the city of, you fill in the blank. Simply put, no one should be going to jail for this. And in at least one county, Washtenaw County, Michigan, this resolution has been adopted as a county-wide policy directive by the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney. And we would like to do that here as well.
Of course, we know it might not be easy. Many people still view these substances as dangerous drugs that will cause chaos in the community if allowed to run amok. But these fears are not rooted in reality. They're a direct result of decades of government propaganda. The Nixon-era war on drugs painted all substances with the same brush, and unfortunately those false perceptions still persist today.
And when we dig deeper, we often find an underlying belief that the threat of jail is an effective deterrent to substance abuse. If you've done even a little research on addiction, you know that that's not the case. We're probably preaching to the choir here when we say that the war on drugs has done more harm than good, and that it's time to rethink that approach. Decriminalize Nature Northwest Arkansas is bringing together a whole community of helpers poised to be part of a more humane, health-centered solution that acknowledges what ancient cultures have always known, that nature can show us the way.
While we're still early in our journey, we've already made some important progress. We've developed leadership teams in both Bentonville and Fayetteville, as well as a regional advisory board, which includes licensed therapists and physicians. Our efforts are also gaining traction beyond our local community. We've already propagated a new chapter in Hot Springs.
We also host monthly community education nights to address concerns and build local support. These nights are crucial because they allow us to educate the public and dispel some of the fears that come with the idea of decriminalization. Another major highlight for us is that several members of our team were invited to speak at the Open Plains Psychedelic Therapy Symposium in Tulsa. The fact that there even is a symposium of this nature in our area is significant and speaks to the growing momentum around this issue.
So here's where we need your help. If you have connections in the city government, help us to open those doors. If you can show up, come to our education nights and bring your friends. And if you have the means, we need help paying for library rooms, guest speakers, and marketing. We've made helping easy. On your table are small flyers with a QR code that will take you to our website, along with a list of 3 easy action items that you can take today, right now, to make a difference. Or come to our table during the breaks. We'd love to talk to you.
In closing, the fight for decriminalization is a fight for some very fundamental freedoms. Choice about what goes into our bodies, agency over our own consciousness, and the pursuit of happiness.
Nature loves courage. And we believe that with your help, Northwest Arkansas can lead the region in thinking courageously and differently about the problems we face and the possibilities that lie ahead of us. We're incredibly grateful for your time today and the chance to share our vision with you. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to working with you all.